People can see different things while looking at the same thing. Maybe this is how problems start. Hmm.
Maybe.
Somebody seemed to tell us that we shouldn't be so attached to our views. You think he was right?
Uh, it could very well be.
He...
Maybe we should pay attention because I know what I'm seeing in my reality and it feels right to me. So maybe we should have
hmm.
some humility and perhaps what we're seeing is not the end all be all. I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe it's just a. Maybe what we're seeing is a result of conditions, and there's no real I to sort of lay ownership to these perceptions and feelings in the first place.
Maybe we should turn to the sutta.
Maybe. You think that's a good idea? Is that
I
your
do.
view?
Yeah, it's my view.
And I want to hear more about, quickly, if you don't mind, Regina, tell me more about our title, which, at least in my book, when I look at the page, it says being devoured. I don't know what you're seeing.
Oh,
It
yeah.
seems to be that you're seeing something else. I
Well,
see being devoured.
you see being devoured. Well, it does say being devoured, but I contend that that's translation. So other people do see it differently. Um, I like this idea of being devoured. We are devoured by the aggregates. I mean, I'm more comfortable with itchy because I relate to itchy because I'm itching all the time. I told you guys that. It's like everything does kind of impinge upon me. And my conditioning is that I'm extremely, extremely sensitive. And I've definitely gotten better with the practice, but everything in the world used to, oh, someone referred to it as, and this sounds coarse, and I don't mean it in a mean way, but when you're burned, when you have a burn and then everything hurts, like whether it's wind on the burn or you can't wear clothes or um, every little thing affects that. And I sort of used to walk around like as if my entire body had been burned because everything impinged sights, sounds, smells, everything was very painful. This was a real experience. Um, so it's like this itch of like everything is just not pleasant, but at the same time, not devoured.
Hmm. There's another translation that's called chewed up. We're being chewed up by these aggregates. Hmm. Well, there is a sutta where a person is sort of compared to a cow whose skin has been removed, and it's just a sort of big, weeping sore, afflicted by any and everything around it. Maybe that's how we are.
I think I relate to that poor cow.
Yeah. Well, should we have a more reading session now?
Yeah, I think so.
If we can agree even where to start and what the
Yeah,
words say.
that's the hard part.
I know. I'm starting
I
to feel
marked it.
insecure about my ability to see what you're seeing now.
Sue Ann, you marked it at,
They're in bhikkhus, maybe?
does that sound right, Sue Ann? There in Biku's?
I don't
Okay,
know.
I'm not hearing her. Does that sound right, Stephen?
I think that's where we should start.
Okay, let's start.
Now, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I marked it down that we start with he reflects thus. It's after the revulsion towards present form and it's fading away in cessation. It was
Right.
that first paragraph about that. Then the next one begins with he reflects thus, and that's what
Okay.
we're up to. Can I
Okay.
Okay,
start?
Yes,
sure.
but why
Why
don't
don't
you?
we start there? We can start
Okay.
there.
Okay, we'll start there.
Okay.
He reflects us.
Everybody got it?
We're ready.
Okay. He reflects thus: I am now being devoured by feeling. I am now being devoured by perception. I am now being devoured by volitional formations. I am now being devoured by consciousness. In the past, too, I was devoured by consciousness in the same way that I am now being devoured by present consciousness. If I were to seek delight in future consciousness, then in the future too I shall be devoured by consciousness in the same way that I am now being devoured by present consciousness. Having reflected thus, he becomes indifferent toward past consciousness. He does not seek delight in future consciousness. He is practicing for revulsion towards present consciousness, for its fading away and cessation.
Okay, maybe we should pause there, or do you want to continue?
Maybe just
Steve?
remind us about this kind of odd choice of word, revulsion.
Yeah, I did want to speak
Yeah.
to that. So remember, this is, of course, a translation choice. And so are we practicing to be revolted by our consciousness? In
I hope
actuality,
not.
well, I hope not. Sometimes I'm revolted by my consciousness, but I think I prefer disenchantment, to be unenchanted by our present consciousness. In other words, not to be so taken up with it. And what would it
Right.
look like, Stephen, to be taken up by consciousness?
Well, it's like, when I go to the gym and I pump iron and I stare at myself incessantly at the mirror thinking, check this out. That's probably not revulsion towards my physical form.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mm.
I'll go with that.
Okay.
Okay. So for those of you who would like to read, please raise your hands. So I will call on
This one has the famous set of words. It's a big chance to read it. Okay, Brahman.
Brahman.
Okay. What do you think, bhikkhus? Is form permanent or impermanent? Is feeling, perception, volitional formations, consciousness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Therefore, bhikkhus, any kind of form whatsoever, any kind of feeling whatsoever, any kind of perception whatsoever, any kind of volitional formations whatsoever, any kind of consciousness whatsoever, whether past, future, or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all consciousness should be seen as it really is with respect, with correct wisdom thus. This is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself.
Thank you.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it. We can all pack it up.
All right, I got it.
We're done. Seriously, this to me is huge. This is huge. Especially this is feeling, perception, formations, all of these things, they are not permanent, they're not self. And one of the most profound things for me early on in my practice was this feeling. Is feeling permanent? Is it impermanent? Because, and I know I shared with y'all before that I always took it for permanent, and I always took it for this is me. If anger was arising, it was there forever. It was just a part of me. It was who I was, and it was never going to change. And it caused a lot of suffering. It caused a lot of suffering. But the good news is it's not permanent and it's not self. I mean, what does that even mean? I mean, I'm wondering, Terania, because I know that you're big into the aggregates. I'm wondering if you might be able to elucidate a bit on what we just read. And
yeah, it's subtle stuff, because I think what he's pointing to here is the experience of attaching to these really what's essentially the body and mind. Every world religion says we're not this body and mind, so it's nothing new in one sense. But he's pointing to how it is that that's so, and encouraging a way of knowing the experience of physicality and feeling and perception and formations with some semblance of non-attachment, such that they can be seen more phenomenologically. And that develops, that affects a completely different relationship with it. And so you get to what I call the paradox of non-attachment, you know, which is that to the extent that we are not attached to these, to that extent, we have a much more intimate experience of them. It's the weirdest thing.
Right. And there is Vipassana, ladies and gentlemen. Right?
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
This is what we're supposed to be doing.
Mm.
And now we know why the Buddha asks us to do these things when we meditate. Look at these things. Look at ourselves. Don't look outside. Don't look on the internet. Look at what's happening in your very mind and body and see for yourself. And so things that are constantly kaleidoscopically shifting, changing, how can we possibly hold on to them? What is there to even grasp to? And it's pretty mind-boggling, really, and can be very unsettling, I might add. It can be very unsettling to see the sands shifting sort of beneath or around oneself. Because
Only in the short term, though, right?
I hope so. But it certainly can be a bit discombobulating, disconcerting, disheartening, scary. It's scary. But maybe if there's questions about what we've covered so far, which is maybe only a small piece of the sutta, but a rather important bit, one might raise their hand, something they'd like to add.
Linda
Linda?
Rose. Yes, Linda.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time grasping the consciousness part. And I go in and out of getting it. And I'm wondering about if we went back to the train, the sound of the train, what would be the consciousness part of that? I just feel like I need more concrete help on it.
Thank you
Right.
for that question, Linda, because I think it can easily be very confusing. So, as Stephen likes to say, it's everything. Do you want to elaborate, Stephen?
It's that which knows. I mean, I
Hmm.
think consciousness is the knowing of the mind that knows. On the one, on maybe on one hand, consciousness is the sort of the external stimulus impinging upon a sense receptor. That's a consciousness. It says, of course, the classic formula is something like when the smell strikes against the nose, smell odor consciousness arises. But I would say that in this aggregate, an overall knowing of the contents of the mind is what we would call consciousness, sort of like how we normally would take consciousness. Terania, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, and I think this is a great question because it's one of the places where you can really see what he's getting at here. And just stay with me on it. Like say you hear that train whistle, then there's a moment where there's hearing. The raw experience of that is just an ing word, hearing. There is hearing, and watch how in the moments following that, or even simultaneously, you have a very clear sense of me as the one who is doing the hearing, right?
Right.
Don't you see? So like I'd like to shine the spotlight right there because you can see very directly that that sense of self as the one who is conscious is a tag. It's an add-on. It's not the actual direct experience. And so that's a very practical way to see this. This is not me. This is not myself.
Mm.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and it's so true
Yeah.
that we just have to be sort of honest about what's happening, and how could we not, in a way? I can't even really imagine, because I'm not an arahant, to know what it would be like to just know without ascribing that to an I that knows.
Right.
It's my sound. I mean, I'm hearing it. How could I not be hearing it? How could there be sound without me hearing it? I don't even really understand that. It's complicated.
It is.
Linda, does that sort of
Yeah, yeah.
make inroads?
Yeah, we're back to who's hearing the train, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was sort of the it in our last sutta. The it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
hearing. There's not. I mean, there seems to be a hearer, but really, the Buddha seems to be telling us that what's happening is a process, which we
Mhm.
call hearing.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
think,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Thank
I
you.
thank you for that question, Linda. So, I guess you could look at consciousness when you're sitting down to eat a bowl of ice cream. There's the taste, there's that sense, but there's also, this is my favorite flavor of ice cream. There it is, it shows up. Um, oh,
These are my thoughts. This is my favorite. I see this. I'm tasting that. How could it be otherwise, right? But we're told that this is the big problem. This taking up of the aggregates as mine. This taking up is, this is myself. We take them up, or they're taken up. And so, how can we somehow grind down this sense of I am doing this? By reminding ourselves that this is a conditioned phenomenon. That this is impossible to take something which is constantly shifting to be assigned to a permanent thing. And so I'm always encouraged when I hear Bhikkhu Bodhi say that we should say these lines to ourselves every day. This is not mine. I am not this. Because this is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. This is sort of like sandpaper that can very slowly begin to grind down this essential wrong view.
and I think that goes back to what you were saying, Stephen, in regards to the therapeutic aspect of this. I mean, I like your word. I mean, of course, we know that the Buddha is speaking in terms of ultimate liberation, but in terms of the therapeutic aspect, um, this anger is not mine. This sadness, I mean, it is arising, but it is not me. It is not mine.
Right? In a way, we say, let it go. But in a way, we could say we never had it. It was never ours. And it's a sort of a misperception to say, it's my anger.
Well, that's why I like the phrase, let it be. So, right, if I slam my finger into a door, which I'm a little bit clumsy, so things like this happen. Um, it sounds kooky, but it's kind of goes back to what Terania was saying, is that when we can get, what was it you were saying? Then when we can experience something, we can get intimate with it. And I'm not, and then it's like just us being with that, with the pain that's arising in the finger that's slammed in the door. It actually makes it more bearable.
Right. What you're getting free of, what you're dropping is the reactivity. And you're back, when you don't react to it, then you're with the actual experience more fully.
Right. And it is just our desire not to be with the experience fully is what causes so much pain.
It's dukkha.
It is
Dukkha
a
all the way.
serious dukkha. Okay, so James, and then we're going to be out of time. Good to see you, James.
Hi, everybody. I'll make it quick. Actually, what Ms. Terania was saying earlier about, I understood, I understand this is for us as sort of the locus, sort of a place where all that, where these five aggregates happen. So the sounds and the experiences, but in the immediate present, just experience it as itself, as opposed to identifying with that place where that happens, this form where that happens, the consciousness where that happens. So just sort of throwing that out there.
Thank you, James. So, any final words, Terania or Stephen, before we say bye to everyone?
It was blue stripes.
This is what's
See, I
crazy.
can't let it go.
You can't. You can't. And what is?
I know I'm right.
Yes, I know. I think we'll have to hold it from there. And I want to will myself into seeing the black and blue, but I'm unable to. And if we were unable to get to any of your questions, please feel free to email us at insight@Sutta and the City.
Or save them for next time.
Or save them for next time. Or you can also bring up any questions, thoughts, concerns on our Facebook page. So yes, thank you all, everyone, for being here. We will continue with this discussion next Sunday. I know that today's Thursday, and thank you all. Micro meta. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease. May I understand that all things are conditioned, they arise and they pass away. May I allow things to be. May I allow things to be without picking them up or pushing them away. So I hope that you can all practice that until we meet again Sunday. And thank you so much for being with us tonight and this morning. Have a wonderful evening and day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regina
Thank
and
you.
Stephen and
Thank you,
everybody.
night.
Thank
Have
you.
a
Bye,
good
everybody.
night.
Good night,
Thank you.
Regina.
So
Good
much.
night.
Blessings
Bye,
to all.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here.